Greetings all. I am in a new place today. I am Patricia and I am traveling for history. Today I am at Battery Park in Burlington, Vermont, and I'll be talking with some folks who are on the Old North End tour with me. You'll not see any of us though, so sorry. But you'll hear what we have to say. So I just want to let you know that I do use a script. You may not know that when I'm offering a tour, but this is the Old North End tour that Preservation Burlington used to offer. In fact, I offered that tour as part of the Ramble one day in July for several years. So without further ado, let me start talking about the Old North End. So the Old North End is not one neighborhood, it is many. Its earliest settlements were east of Battery Park. So we're standing in Battery Park, and east of it is forward of where you're looking. Expanding from Pearl Street, which is the street that cars are turning onto right now, and northward from there. So Pearl Street is the north-south divider in the city of Burlington, and if you were to go north, I'm panning that way for you now, you get an idea of the area of the Old North End. In the mid-19th century, when the lumber industry flourished, this area grew rapidly to accommodate the influx of workers. Single-family and tenement housing, middle-class neighborhoods, commercial districts, and ethnic neighborhoods all existed in this diverse and densely populated part of the city, and quite frankly, it's still the same. Plenty of businesses in the Old North End, plenty of diversity, plenty of ethnic neighborhoods. Single-family tenement housing is all still there for you to go and walk around in and enjoy. Now, Battery Park gets its name from the War of 1812. Burlington served as the American headquarters and the main garrison of the lake. Several thousand soldiers were housed here in tents and barracks to the north and east of this 13-gun battery. So in the Old North End, hence the tour, right? The cannon successfully repelled 3 British war vessels in 1813 in the only action to be seen here during the war. In 1840, the battery was given to the city for a public park, and about a decade later, paths were laid and elms were planted. Well, thanks to Dutch elm disease, we have said goodbye to the elms, and they're long gone, but the view of the sunset and the Adirondacks is absolutely spectacular. This body of water in front of us here is Lake Champlain. It got its name when Samuel de Champlain, a French explorer, quote-unquote, discovered it in 1609. We know darn well the Native Americans knew all about it, but it is named for Samuel de Champlain. The view from here probably inspired this exuberant quote from Burlington, published in Industries and Wealth of Vermont, an 1891 book. I actually own the book. It's quite thin, I would say. It's about this. It's about this thick. There were a lot of industries too, but they're by type. They're grouped by type. And the front cover is particularly interesting. It's a hardcover book, but it has a square of a sunset or a sunrise, and it's in color, green and yellow, I believe. It's a charming book, and it's fun to read because I can assure you, reading a modern business book or a geography book is nothing in comparison to reading one from the turn of the last century. And you'll understand why as soon as I read you this quote. And the quote is, "The Queen City has the mountain scenery of Scotland, the sky and sunsets of Italy, the valleys and verdure of France, the lake views of Switzerland, and the quiet, park-like surroundings of an English landscape. In a word, it is a gem set in an emerald ring of natural beauty which can hardly be equaled anywhere else in New England and can be excelled nowhere." So, unquote. I'd like to know what modern business book has that kind of quote in it. So, All right, so right in front of me here, I'm going to pan now so we can see this amazing statue. This is William Wells, who was a major brevet general in the U.S. Civil War, 1860 to 1865. And so let me just tell you a little bit about him, because I find him fascinating. First of all, if you've been following my Lakeview Cemetery tours or videos, then you know that it exists, and he's actually buried there. His entire family is buried there. His wife, his children, their spouses. Fascinating. His house is still standing. 158 South Willard Street, so the corner of South Willard and Main Streets. The house is on the what side of the street is that? It's the right side of the street, so it is southeast. Thank you. It is the southeast corner of the street. It was a fraternity, a UVM fraternity for years, Phi Gamma Delta, but I believe it's a private residence now. So the general and 3 of his brothers joined the Union Army in 1860. All went in as privates. Now, without sounding like I'm denigrating his accomplishments, his claim to fame was that he was the most decorated soldier of the U.S. Civil War. He went in this private, and when he left military service, when he was mustered out, he mustered out as a major brevet general. So the word brevet, in case you don't know, is Latin for brief. What does that mean? It means that he was given the promotion. So he had the rank. He had no extra pay for it, but he had all the privileges and honor that were attached to it. Even though he mustered out for the rest of his life, people referred to him as general. Yeah, so he was from Waterbury, Vermont, and when all four of them did return, he had been injured during the war. He was shot. I think he was even held for a year as a prisoner. So, but anyway, they did all return alive. And then they decided to move the family business from Waterbury up to Burlington, which was an amazingly good thing to do. So if you're from this area, you have likely heard of the Wells Richardson Company, or at least you have seen the building on Lower College Street because it still exists. Bennington Potter's North is there, and a whole host of other businesses. And at some point I'm going to do a video on the building itself because it's fascinating. But as a short thing, if you do look at the building from across the street, you will see that the building is not actually one big building. It was built in sections. As the company prospered, they built another section. So, but if you look, you can't tell unless you actually look up. I always recommend that people look up at buildings. So, the Wells Richardson Company was a drug and dye company. And when they moved it to Burlington, and as the company prospered, they had offices here in Burlington, they had an office in Montreal, and another office in London, England. So, the reason why the general was promoted so often is because during wartime it is so much easier to be promoted, wartime promotions. He was in the cavalry, and if you have men mounted on horses and the generals, the commanding officers leading from the front, which was required, then it's highly likely that they would be picked off by snipers. So he was promoted quite often, and something that's interesting, he was born in 1837. So when he joined in 1860, he would have been about 23. And as you look at this statue, And as I pan in on his face, he does not look 23 at all. And the sculptor did not believe that people would believe that the general was actually as young as in his 20s. So he aged his face to make it seem as if someone would actually that the soldiers would actually follow him. But he really was in his 20s. The original of this statue is at Gettysburg because he served there. Now, I believe there is a book out on him, and you can read all about his exploits. I do have a video that'll be coming out pretty soon from Lakeview Cemetery, and I read to you the tremendous inscription of all of his ranks, which is stunning. I will say that here he's listed as a brevet major general, and on the tombstone it said brigadier general. I actually don't know if there's a difference between the two, but something to look up, something you can comment on. Tell me, oh Patricia, you're wrong. You will not hurt my feelings. So the general held a lot of positions. It wasn't just the work he did for his own company. His brothers really ran that. But you'll hear more about him in my other video from Lakeview Cemetery. But he died in New York City. Was out taking a walk, dropped dead of angina pectoris. Is that a heart attack? Heart attack, I guess. Dropped dead on the sidewalk. I think he was in his 50s or 60s, so he wasn't. Yeah, 60s. I guess he was in his early 60s when he died. So, pretty amazing person. I had the honor of reading all of his personal papers and military papers as well. You can too. They're housed at special collections at UVM, which is where all the local history information is located. And if you are willing to don the white gloves to touch these things, then you too can read them. What I found with the personal letters, a lot of them were between his fiancée and him. Arahana Richardson, I believe was her name. So Anna, but she went by Anna. And if I were to be perfectly honest, which why wouldn't I be? I found them a bit racy. I know. Who'd have thunk? Yet, and clearly these were never ever expected to be read by anyone but the two of them. But I do have to wonder what her family thought. This is an unmarried young woman receiving letters from this rising star in the Union Army. But the letters are playful and they're fun, and as I said, they're a bit racy too. So his military records were particularly interesting to read. There was a younger officer who wrote to the general asking the general to withdraw his accusation of cowardice against this younger officer. The younger officer, according to General Wells, led from behind, and leading from behind was considered cowardly. Officers were expected to lead from the front, and they were the draw for gunfire so that their troops could be successful. And if the officers lean from behind, clearly he's putting his men in harm's way first. And the general, after several letters back and forth, absolutely refused to withdraw his complaint or his accusation. So I don't know what happened about that, and I don't remember the younger officer's name either. But again, if other folks out there do know, I know I love comments. It'd be nice if someone made one, so I could respond. Anyway, that's about all I have to say about the general. And just to pan up a little bit, because there is the flag right there. Oh, I did forget to mention probably the most important aspect of his military careers. He received the Medal of Honor for gallant actions at Gettysburg. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I do have more tours of the Old North End coming up. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.